Hello, this is a Blüthner style 4 grand piano. It's 150 centimeters long. This one's actually 153 centimeters. They vary slightly. Just come into stock, so just wanting to see if there's any extra work that we need to do, and also to appreciate the piano. Of course, all the casework. My colleagues already looked around this and made good anything that was slightly imperfect. It was really perfect. It's French polish, so tremendously well restored, as well, as we'll see in a minute. I'll just have a quick look around the piano. Certainly one of the best that we've had, and we have sold several Star 4 Blüthner grand pianos. It's one of our favourite small grand pianos, as you'll know if you've seen other videos. Just have a quick look round and you can see how well it's been French polished, and beautiful grain on this style of Blüthner. Very similar. The mahogany is the more common one, and this is the more common one. I think I didn't say the date, which is 1934. So 1930s pianos they are normally, the ones we're getting in. So the casework is almost immaculate, and just as it was when it was done. I think it's 2007, and so that was fully restored then, as we'll see some more details of that in a minute. Now the keys are ivory and immaculate, slightly yellowed, as you can see. We aren't going to buff them, actually. It's about the only work that we have to do on this piano. That's very unusual. Normally you've got to do a lot more work. Just little bits of perfection here and there, but otherwise it's almost perfect as it is. So the inside is immaculate too. It's been fully restored, as I mentioned, including the rest plank, and the tuning pins are very tight. This is really important, as we mentioned before. There's a new rest plank, so you can see you take these screws off to take the front top rail off, and you have to take these off as well. Actually, that one is all not necessary. Sometimes they go to about there, and you've got to take these off, the front one off, and to get the rest plank to the rest plank, you can lift up then this top rail once you've taken the screws off, and then we can look at the rest plank and see what it is. I've removed the top rail so you can see the rest plank very clearly, and wasn't quite sure what it was. There's two main ones that are used these days. One is delignate, which clearly isn't, because that's very multi-layered, and rock maple, which doesn't look like that either. So talk to others in the trade too, and they think it's beech, and it does look like beech. So it's 5-play beech, which is very effective. The tuning pins are extremely tight. What's encouraging to me is the tuning pins are very small. When restorers restore these, sometimes they're restored and the pins are too big, really. They can be bigger, it won't make any difference. But if you want to restring it at a later date, maybe 30, 40 years' time, perhaps you don't think that way these days, but the old manufacturers did. They made small tuning pins so that it can be re-pinned without changing the rest plank. But the rest plank's been changed, so it's had smaller pins put in, which is very good, which means you can, at a later date, put larger ones in if you need to. And they're very, very tight. So the soundboard's in perfect condition. You can see the original decal on here, and you can see the date on that, which is 1927. Is a common one that they put on at that time. So obviously the piano's 1934. They didn't change the decal, and there's a serial number. If it's not there on your piano, if you've got a Blüthner, then always inside at the back there's a serial number, or nearly always. So you can see that string there has been replaced at some stage, but it's a very good match if we listen to the notes. Sometimes the strings aren't such a good match, but it's the right length, as you can see here, the correct length, and a good match. I think this one's been replaced as well at some stage, but if we listen to them now, we can hear the tone of them. And really a very good match indeed. And they were put on some time ago, so they've settled in nicely. Don't know why they're broken. It's unusual for that to happen. Obviously we're guaranteeing the piano for 5 years, and they shouldn't break at all. We're not used to, we're not normally expecting strings to break. It's very unusual. But the only thing you can say that, well, not defect, but something about this piano to talk about. But the tone here, it's as good as any we've had, really. Little bits of voicing here and there where the hammers vary slightly, and they're arbel hammers, as we'll see in a second. The action's been extensively restored too, and in fact the bottom lever here has been replaced. Normally levers are not replaced, they're not necessary to replace them, but there must have been a reason for doing that. Arbel hammers I mentioned too, you can see the name Arbel written on there, so it's Renner or Arbel hammers, as we've said before, that are put on the best makes of hammers. There are a few others that you find, but normally it's Arbel or Renner on the top quality hammers, actions, sorry, and this roller's been replaced, obviously hammer shanks, rollers, and the bottom action here too, and beautifully regulated afterwards. Now, not very commonly, we've found this piano is fitted with a humidity control unit. It's actually called a Dampp-Chaser or Piano Life Saver. So if we look under the piano, we see the humidity and temperature control. The idea is to make the humidity even. So there's a bar here to heat up if it needs to drive the moisture away. This has got water in it with pads, which the idea is to moisturize the piano, try to make sure the soundboard doesn't dry out. And there's the control unit there that's measuring it, the sensor and so on. There must be better videos online, I'm sure, about this, because we don't normally install it ourselves. And when we find them, we usually find they're bone dry and they're not switched on either. So we tend, if there's a problem with heating in the room, for instance, if you've got underfloor heating, and that's very common these days, we recommend an isolation mat, which is quite easily to obtain, and that will stop so much of the drying out, because obviously if it's underfloor heating, then it heats up under the piano and dries the piano out. So it's quite an enemy of the piano. We recommend buying a hygrometer that's to measure the humidity in the room, just to try and get the room so that's not a problem. And if you are installing underfloor heating, don't install it where the piano is going to go. Obviously there are problems. We can discuss that with you if you want to buy a piano and you think you might have a problem. So we've just taken off this unit. You can see the pads here. So this is filled with water, and then these pads, obviously they have moist water in them then, and they moisturize underneath the soundboard. And you fill it up with this occasionally. There's some liquid you put in, they say a capful up to this line here. So that's the system that's used. So rather than taking it off, there's a pipe here. You can put the water in there and it fills up, and so you don't have to take the unit off every time. So these indicators here light up. Obviously that left hand one tells you if the power's on. If you need more water, that will light up, and if the pads need changing or replacing. As I say, I'm not really an expert at this at all, and really maybe not telling you all the correct information. So please look for other videos, or if you're in the trade and you'd like to comment, it'd be really helpful so we can learn about this. So the piano was fully restored in 2007 by 1066 in Cambridge. 1066 is because they're Norman brothers, Norman Conquest 1066. And it's had a new rest plank, a good new rest plank. Spins are extremely tight, so it's very successful that. So just a few small jobs to do: buffing the keys, attract dirt if they're not shiny, voicing some of the hammers, which is a few that I've marked here already with a B, which means they're slightly bright, but not that much, and lubricating the rollers, bring the weight down slightly. So the weighting here was 54 grams, it should be a little bit less than that. So lubricating the roller has taken the inertia down, so it's not really bring the weight down, it's just the inertia. So if I put 52 grams on here, then lubricating the rollers means that the key goes down more smoothly. And if we tap underneath, by the way, you've got to have your foot on the pedal for this, and you can see it's going down. There we are. So that's 52 grams. So that's a Blüthner Star 4, one of which we are always trying to source and have done several of them, but this is certainly up with the very best that we've ever managed to source. So really pleased to get it in stock. It's made in 1934, which is about the middle of the period that they were made. Very successful piano. It's mellow compared to a modern piano, and it's ideal for domestic use really. And the touch is, well, as good as a new piano. You can certainly practice on this piano and enjoy the piano. I've enjoyed it immensely so far, and just playing it. It's kind of piano that I just want to play more and more. So thank you very much for listening. If you're interested, please do write to us, info@robertspianos.com. If you want to try out the piano because you can't come in, please have a look at our rental scheme. Thank you very much.